The sun had barely dipped below the horizon when the first reports came in. Across every continent, people stopped what they were doing to stare at the sky. It wasn't just dark. It was wrong. The stars seemed dimmer, swallowed by an unnatural shadow that stretched across the heavens. Then, like a nightmare made real, massive shapes began descending from the void above. They weren't sleek or shiny like the spaceships humanity had imagined for centuries. These vessels were jagged and asymmetrical, their surfaces pulsing faintly with veins of glowing red light. They looked alive, more like predators than machines. Thousands of them filled the atmosphere, blotting out the moon and casting Earth into an eerie twilight. Panic spread faster than anyone could react. Social media exploded with videos of the ships hovering silently over cities, oceans, and deserts. No one knew why they were here or what they wanted. In New York City, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood on her apartment balcony, clutching her phone as she watched the largest ship loom over Manhattan. Her heart raced, but it wasn't just fear gripping her, it was guilt. Weeks earlier, while analyzing data from a deep space telescope, she'd noticed strange energy spikes near the Oort cloud. At the time, she dismissed them as anomalies caused by cosmic radiation. Now, staring up at the alien armada, she couldn't shake the feeling that those signals had been warnings, and she'd ignored them. Elena wasn't alone in her unease. Around the world, governments scrambled to respond. Military jets took to the skies, circling the ships cautiously. News anchors begged for calm, though their trembling voices betrayed their terror. Scientists debated whether the fleet posed a threat, while conspiracy theorists claimed this moment marked either humanity's salvation or its doom. Amidst the chaos, a single message echoed across every radio frequency, television channel, and internet platform. It was low and guttural, spoken in a language no one understood, but translators quickly pieced together its meaning. We have come to reclaim what was stolen. What does that even mean? Elena muttered under her breath. She turned back inside, pacing her small living room. Her mind raced through possibilities. Had humanity unknowingly taken something from these aliens? Or was this some kind of misunderstanding? Either way, the implications terrified her. As night fell, the streets below grew eerily quiet. People huddled indoors, glued to their screens, waiting for answers that didn't come. The ships remained motionless, their glowing lights flickering like watchful eyes. For now, there was no attack, no demands beyond that cryptic message. But the silence felt heavier than any assault. It was as if the aliens were giving humanity time to process, to prepare. Elena grabbed her laptop and opened files she'd saved weeks ago. Those energy signatures she'd ignored. They matched the patterns emitted by the ships now hanging ominously in the sky. If only she'd acted sooner, maybe someone could have predicted this invasion. Maybe they could have done something. Anything. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. Startled, she hesitated before answering. On the other side stood Captain Marcus Kane, a soldier she'd met once during a military-funded research project. His uniform was disheveled, his face grim. "We need your help," he said without preamble. "Whatever these things are, you're the only one who might figure them out." Elena nodded, grabbing her coat. As they stepped outside, the weight of the situation pressed down on her chest. Above them, the alien fleet loomed like gods preparing to pass judgment. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The days that followed the arrival of the Deathworlder fleet felt like an eternity. Humanity waited, breathless and on edge, for some kind of action from the aliens. But nothing happened. No lasers rained down from the sky, no armies poured out of the ships, and no further messages crackled through the airwaves. The fleet simply hung there, silent and immovable, casting long shadows over cities and towns. It was as if they were watching, waiting for something. Dr. Elena Vasquez found herself at the center of a storm she hadn't asked to be part of. Governments around the world had reached out to her after learning about her earlier research on the mysterious energy signatures near the Oort cloud. Now she sat in a cramped conference room, at a military base outside Washington, D.C., surrounded by generals, scientists, and politicians who all wanted answers she didn't have. "We need to communicate with them," one general insisted, slamming his fist on the table. "If we don't act now, they'll think we're weak." "And how exactly do you propose we do that?" Elena shot back, her voice sharp but controlled. "We don't even know if they can hear us, or if they care." Her frustration was shared by everyone in the room. Every attempt to contact the fleet had failed. Radio signals, laser pulses, even flashing lights in Morse code, all met with silence. It was maddening. For all their advanced technology, humanity seemed powerless against these towering behemoths that loomed above them like judgmental gods. Captain Marcus Kane stood quietly in the corner, observing the chaos unfold. He'd been assigned to protect Elena, but he couldn't shake the feeling that his role would soon shift from guardian to strategist. Something about this situation gnawed at him, though he couldn't put his finger on it. When the meeting broke up without any real progress, he approached Elena as she packed her notes into a worn leather bag. "You okay?" he asked, his tone softer than usual. She sighed, running a hand through her dark hair. "I feel useless. All I've done is point out what we don't know. Meanwhile, people are panicking, and those ships just sit there like they're mocking us." Marcus nodded. "Maybe they're not ignoring us. Maybe they're waiting for us to figure it out ourselves." Elena froze, staring at him. "What did you say?" He shrugged. "Just a thought. You told me those energy patterns you studied matched the ones coming from their ships. What if the key to talking to them isn't shouting louder? It's listening harder?" That night, Elena returned to her makeshift lab, a cluttered office filled with monitors, papers, and half-empty coffee cups. She replayed the recording of the alien's message over and over again, breaking it down syllable by syllable. At first, it sounded like gibberish, but then she noticed something strange. Buried beneath the guttural tones were faint echoes of familiar sounds, patterns that reminded her of ancient human languages. Her hands trembled as she cross-referenced the audio with linguistic databases. Hours passed before she finally leaned back in her chair, stunned. Fragments of Sumerian, Sanskrit, and even Proto-African dialects appeared woven into the transmission. How was that possible? Unless... Before she could finish the thought, her phone buzzed. It was a news alert. Civilians across the globe were reporting bizarre dreams. People claimed to see desolate landscapes littered with monstrous creatures and glowing artifacts. Some described standing face-to-face with towering figures resembling the Deathworlders themselves. The reports varied, but one detail remained consistent. They all woke up feeling like they'd lived someone else's life. Elena stared at her screen, her mind racing. Was this another piece of the puzzle, or was it just mass hysteria brought on by fear? Either way, one thing was clear. The Deathworlders weren't here by accident. They knew something about humanity, something buried deep in its past. And whatever it wasn't going to stay hidden for long. As the days dragged on, the tension between humanity and the Deathworlder fleet grew unbearable. The silence from the aliens was deafening, but it wasn't the only thing keeping people awake at night. Strange phenomena began spreading like wildfire. Reports of vivid, haunting dreams that felt more like memories than imagination. People described barren wastelands, filled with towering monsters, glowing artifacts buried in ash-covered soil, and shadowy figures who seemed to watch them with cold indifference. Dr. Elena Vasquez couldn't ignore these accounts. They were too widespread, too consistent to dismiss as mere coincidence or hysteria. She started collecting testimonies, piecing together fragments of what people claimed to have seen. One recurring detail stood out: glowing symbols etched into stone tablets or floating in the air, pulsing with the same red light emitted by the alien ships above. It was as if the Deathworlders were communicating, not through words, but through visions. Meanwhile, Captain Marcus Kane struggled with his own unsettling experiences. He hadn't told anyone, not even Elena, about the dreams he'd been having. In them, he stood alongside the Deathworlders, fighting against an enemy so monstrous it defied description. Each time he woke up, his body ached as though he'd actually been in battle. The worst part, these weren't nightmares. They felt real. Too real. At the military base where they worked, tensions ran high. World leaders argued over how to respond to the looming threat. Some advocated for launching preemptive strikes against the fleet, convinced that waiting would only give the aliens time to prepare an attack. Others pushed for diplomacy, though no one could agree on how to approach beings who refused to acknowledge their existence. Alina found herself caught in the middle of this political chaos. While generals debated tactics, she focused on decoding the message embedded in the dreams. Using software designed to analyze ancient languages, she compared the glowing symbols from the visions with carvings found in archaeological sites around the world. What she discovered shocked her. Deep beneath Antarctica, researchers had uncovered ruins older than any known civilization. The carvings inside depicted humanoid figures, fleeing across space in primitive vessels. Surrounding them were images of jagged ships eerily similar to those now hovering over Earth. But the most disturbing detail was the creatures chasing them. Hulking beasts with razor-sharp claws and glowing eyes. The carvings also included text written in a language eerily close to the one used in the Deathworlder's transmission. This can't be a coincidence, Alina whispered to herself, staring at the screen. Her hands trembled as she connected the dots. If the carvings were accurate, and if the Deathworlders truly came from the same place depicted in the ruins, then humanity might not be native to Earth after all. Could humans have originated from the same desolate planet as the Deathworlders? And if so, why had they left? Marcus walked into the lab just as Alina was printing out her findings. "What's got you looking like you've seen a ghost?" he asked, noticing the intensity in her expression. She handed him the papers without a word. As he scanned the pages, his brow furrowed. "You're saying we're related to them?" "Not directly," Alina replied. "But there's evidence suggesting both our species might share a common origin. Maybe we were created, or engineered, by the same precursor race. That could explain why their message references something stolen. Whatever it is, it ties back to us." Marcus frowned, glancing at the glowing symbols on the monitor. "If that's true, then this isn't just about reclaiming property. This is personal." Before either of them could say more, alarms blared throughout the base. A soldier burst into the room, shouting, "We've got movement. The ships are descending." Alina and Marcus exchanged a glance. Whatever was coming next, it wouldn't wait for answers. The Deathworlders had finally made their move, and humanity still had no idea what they wanted. The alarms echoed through the military base, but it wasn't the Deathworlder fleet descending that caused panic. It was something far more immediate. A massive object had crashed into Siberia, shaking the ground hundreds of miles away. Within hours, reports flooded in from local authorities and satellite imagery confirmed the impact site, a crater glowing faintly with an eerie red light. Dr. Alina Vasquez and Captain Marcus Kane were ordered to lead a recovery team to investigate. As their convoy raced toward the crash site, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that this event was connected to everything else. The ships, the dreams, the ancient carvings. Whatever had fallen from the sky might hold answers to the mystery surrounding the Deathworlders. When they arrived, the scene was surreal. The object wasn't just debris. It was unmistakably alien. Its jagged surface pulsed with veins of crimson energy, resembling the same organic design as the fleet above. Soldiers set up a perimeter, while scientists cautiously approached the artifact. Alina stepped forward, her heart pounding as she examined its intricate patterns eerily similar to the glowing symbols from the dreams. "Careful," Marcus warned, his hand resting on his weapon. "We don't know what this thing is capable of." Alina nodded, but curiosity outweighed caution. She reached out slowly, her gloved fingers brushing against the artifact's surface. In an instant, the object reacted violently. A surge of energy erupted, sending shockwaves rippling outward. Nearby equipment short-circuited, and soldiers stumbled back, shielding their eyes from the blinding light. Alina fell to her knees, gasping for air as the artifact's glow intensified. What the hell just happened? Marcus demanded, rushing to her side. I don't know, Alina stammered, clutching her chest. Her mind felt scrambled, as though the artifact had reached inside her thoughts. Images flashed before her eyes. Desolate landscapes, towering monsters, and glowing symbols etched into stone. But there was something new this time. Strands of DNA spiraling together, merging human and alien genetic codes. Back at the base, Alina worked tirelessly to analyze samples taken from the artifact. What she discovered left her speechless. Embedded within the object were traces of DNA. Not entirely human, not entirely alien, but a hybrid of both. It was as if humanity and the Deathworlders shared a common ancestor, one engineered by an advanced precursor race. This changes everything, Alina muttered, staring at the data on her screen. They're not just here because we stole something. They're here because we are something. Marcus leaned over her shoulder, his expression grim. You think we're part of whatever they lost? It's possible, Alina replied. But why wait until now? Why come after us when we've been on Earth for thousands of years? Before she could answer her own question, another piece of the puzzle emerged. Hidden within the artifact's structure were coordinates pointing to a remote region of space. Alina cross-referenced them with star charts and realized they led to a location near the edge of the galaxy, a place humanity had never explored. We need to go there, Alina said firmly. Whatever these coordinates lead to, it's tied to our origins, and maybe even to resolving this standoff. Marcus frowned. Even if we wanted to, getting there isn't easy. We'd need a prototype starship, and those are under heavy guard. Alina met his gaze, determination burning in her eyes. Then we'll find a way. If we don't, humanity might never understand why the Deathworlders came, or how to stop them. As the two plotted their next move, whispers began spreading among the soldiers. Some believed the artifact was cursed. Others thought it was a weapon. But everyone agreed on one thing. The closer humanity got to understanding the Deathworlders, the more dangerous things became. And yet, Alina knew they had no choice. The truth was out there, and it was calling to her. The decision to steal a prototype starship wasn't made lightly, but Alina Vasquez and Captain Marcus Kane knew they had no other option. The coordinates hidden in the artifact pointed to answers that could change everything. Answers humanity desperately needed if it hoped to survive the standoff with the Deathworlders. But getting access to the ship would mean going against their own government, risking imprisonment, or worse. The starship, codenamed Aurora, was housed in a top-secret facility deep within the Nevada desert. It was humanity's most advanced spacecraft, equipped with experimental engines capable of faster-than-light travel. However, it was also under heavy guard, monitored by both military personnel and an organization known only as the Veil, a shadowy group rumored to operate outside official channels. Their true motives were unknown, but whispers suggested they saw the Deathworlder fleet as a threat to be eliminated at any cost. Alina and Marcus spent days planning their infiltration. They gathered allies quietly, recruiting disillusioned soldiers and sympathetic scientists who shared their belief that diplomacy, not destruction, was the key to resolving the crisis. Among them was Lieutenant Sarah Choi, a brilliant engineer with insider knowledge of the Aurora systems, and Dr. Raj Patel, a linguist who had been analyzing the Deathworlders' language alongside Alina. On the night of the operation, tension crackled in the air like static electricity. Dressed in stolen uniforms, the team approached the facility under the cover of darkness. Security checkpoints were bypassed using forged credentials, but every step closer to the hangar felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire. One wrong move, and they'd all be captured or killed. Inside the hangar, the Aurora gleamed under harsh fluorescent lights, its sleek design a stark contrast to the jagged alien ships looming above Earth. As Sarah worked on disabling the security protocols, Marcus kept watch, his hand resting on his weapon. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The facility was too quiet, almost as if they were being allowed to proceed. His suspicions proved correct when alarms suddenly blared, red lights flashing across the hangar. "We've been compromised," Marcus shouted, raising his gun as armed guards poured into the room. Chaos erupted. Elena sprinted toward the ship, clutching a data drive containing all her research. "Get us airborne," she yelled to Sarah, who was already inside the cockpit, frantically powering up the engines. Gunfire echoed through the hangar as Marcus and Raj provided cover, taking down guards with precision shots. Just as the last member of the team boarded, a figure stepped into view, a man in a black suit, flanked by heavily armed operatives. It was Director Cole, the enigmatic leader of the Veil. His cold gaze locked onto Elena as he spoke through a megaphone. "You're making a mistake, Doctor. That ship is humanity's last hope for survival. It's your obsession with war that'll destroy us." Elena shot back, slamming the hatch shut behind her. With seconds to spare, the Aurora roared to life, its engines humming with raw power. The hangar doors opened automatically, too conveniently, and the ship shot into the sky, leaving the facility far below. As they broke through Earth's atmosphere, Elena slumped into a seat, her hands trembling. They'd done it, but at what cost? Back on Earth, Director Cole watched the ship disappear into the void. A faint smile crossed his lips. "Let them go," he said to his subordinates. "They'll lead us straight to the enemy." Unbeknownst to Elena and Marcus, their journey was far from over, and the Veil had plans of its own. The Aurora sliced through the darkness of space like a blade, its experimental engines humming with power. For the first time in days, Elena Vasquez allowed herself to breathe. They had escaped Earth, but the weight of what they'd done, and the dangers ahead, pressed heavily on her mind. The coordinates from the artifact were programmed into the ship's navigation system, and the journey would take weeks even at faster-than-light speeds. As the stars blurred outside the cockpit windows, Elena couldn't help but wonder if they were heading toward salvation or doom. Captain Marcus Kane stood beside her, his arms crossed as he stared out at the endless expanse. "You think we're doing the right thing?" he asked quietly, breaking the silence that had settled over the crew. Elena hesitated before answering. "I don't know," she admitted, "but staying on Earth wasn't an option. If we want answers, we have to go where the trail leads." As the days passed, the team worked tirelessly to prepare for whatever awaited them. Lieutenant Sarah Choi ran diagnostics on the ship's systems, ensuring the prototype engines wouldn't fail mid-journey. Dr. Raj Patil continued analyzing fragments of the Deathworlder's language, hoping to uncover more clues about their origins. Meanwhile, Elena pored over data from the artifact, searching for patterns or hidden messages that might reveal their destination. But the voyage wasn't without challenges. Supplies were limited, and tensions ran high among the crew. The isolation of deep space weighed on everyone, magnifying fears and doubts. Some nights, Elena woke up drenched in sweat, haunted by vivid dreams of desolate landscapes and glowing symbols. Each vision felt more real than the last, as though the artifact was still whispering to her from afar. One evening, while reviewing footage from Earth's archives, Marcus stumbled upon something disturbing. Footage captured during previous encounters with the Deathworlders showed evidence of civilizations destroyed, not out of malice, but necessity. Entire planets had been rendered lifeless after refusing to cooperate with the fleet. It seemed the Deathworlders viewed themselves as enforcers of balance, eliminating threats to galactic ecosystems. "They're not monsters," Marcus said grimly, showing the footage to Elena. "They're exterminators, and if humanity doesn't play by their rules, we might end up like those other species." Elena frowned, her stomach churning. "Then we have to prove we're worth saving. That's why we need to reach those coordinates, to show them we're willing to understand." Their resolve was tested when the Aurora encountered remnants of one such devastated world. Didris floated silently in the void, twisted metal, and shattered habitats, drifting like ghostly echoes of a once thriving civilization. Among the wreckage, they found recordings left behind by survivors. The voices spoke of fear, defiance, and ultimately, regret. One message stood out. We thought we could fight them. We were wrong. The sight shook the crew to their core. Even Sarah, usually pragmatic and unflappable, grew quiet as she repaired a damaged sensor array. What happens if we can't convince them? She asked softly. What if they decide we're beyond saving? No one had an answer. As they neared their destination, strange phenomena began affecting the ship. Instruments malfunctioned without explanation, and faint whispers echoed through the corridors, voices speaking in the same ancient tongue embedded in the artifact. At first, only Elena heard them, but soon others reported feeling uneasy, as though they were being watched. Then came the ambush. Out of nowhere, drones appeared, sleek and black, firing energy blasts that rocked the Aurora. Alarms blared as the crew scrambled to defend themselves. Marcus took charge, coordinating counterattacks while Elena tried to trace the source of the assault. Her blood ran cold when she realized the truth. These weren't Deathworlder drones. They belonged to the Veil. They followed us, Marcus growled, his jaw tight with anger. They'd been tracking us this whole time. The battle raged on, the ship taking heavy damage. In a desperate move to protect the crew, Marcus volunteered to stay behind in the engine room, manually overriding systems to create a diversion. Get out of here, he shouted to Elena as explosions rocked the hull. Finish what we started. Tears streamed down Elena's face as she obeyed, knowing she might never see him again. With the drones temporarily disabled, the Aurora limped forward, closing in on the coordinates. As the structure at their destination came into view, a massive, derelict ark floating in the void, Elena whispered a silent promise to Marcus. We'll make it count, she vowed. Whatever happens next, your sacrifice won't be in vain. The Aurora drifted silently toward the massive structure that loomed ahead, its surface pockmarked with age and cosmic wear. It was an ark, a derelict vessel so vast it dwarfed even the largest Deathworlder ships. Its design was ancient yet advanced, with glowing veins of energy pulsing faintly beneath its metallic skin. To Elena Vasquez, it looked like a relic from another time, a ghost ship abandoned by its creators, but still holding secrets too important to be forgotten. As the crew prepared to board, tension crackled in the air. Lieutenant Sarah Choi ran final checks on their suits and equipment, ensuring everything was functional despite the damage sustained during the drone attack. Dr. Raj Patel clutched a tablet filled with notes, his hands trembling slightly as he reviewed linguistic patterns they might encounter inside. And Elena? She stood at the viewport, staring at the ark with a mix of awe and dread. This was it, the place where answers lay hidden. But would those answers bring salvation or condemnation? The docking bay creaked open with a groan, revealing corridors lined with strange symbols etched into the walls, the same glowing patterns from the artifact, and from Elena's dreams, pulsed softly, casting an otherworldly light over the team. As they stepped inside, the air felt heavy, almost alive, as though the ship itself was watching them. This place, it's not just a machine, Raj murmured, running his fingers over one of the carvings. It's like it's breathing. Elena nodded, her mind racing. Every step deeper into the ark revealed more clues about its purpose. Holographic displays flickered to life as they passed, showing images of countless species, some humanoid, others bizarre and alien, all connected by glowing strands of DNA. Logs written in the same ancient language began translating automatically on their devices, piecing together fragments of a story far older than humanity. The Ark belonged to a precursor race known only as the Seeders, beings who had seeded life across the galaxy billions of years ago. They weren't gods, but scientists, engineers of evolution who created sentient species to adapt and thrive in different environments. Humanity and the Deathworlders were among their experiments. However, The logs also contained warnings. Some creations had grown beyond their intended roles, disrupting ecosystems and endangering entire star systems. When this happened, the Cedars intervened, often violently, to restore balance. "It all makes sense now," Elena whispered, her voice trembling. "The Deathworlders aren't here to destroy us. They're here because we broke the rules." "What rules?" Sarah asked, her tone sharp with frustration. "We didn't even know these cedars existed until now." "They did," Elena replied. "Our ancestors did. That's why they left Earth, to escape whatever consequences came with staying. But now that we've returned to space, we've disrupted the balance again." Before anyone could respond, the group entered a central chamber filled with towering holograms of planets, each surrounded by glowing rings representing ecological stability. One ring stood out. It was shattered, its fragments orbiting a familiar blue-green sphere, Earth. Beside it hovered text in the Cedar language, translated instantly. "Failure to comply will result in relocation." Relocation, not extermination. The realization hit Elena like a punch to the gut. The Deathworlder's mission wasn't to wipe out humanity. It was to send them back to Earth permanently, sealing off their access to the stars. But there was more. In the center of the chamber sat a pedestal holding a crystalline object, similar to the artifact they'd recovered in Siberia. As Elena approached, the whispers she'd been hearing since leaving Earth grew louder, clearer. The voices spoke directly to her now, guiding her hand toward the crystal. When her fingers touched its surface, visions flooded her mind, not just of the past, but of possible futures. She saw humanity confined to Earth, forced to heal the planet under Deathworlder supervision. She saw cooperation between species, sharing technology and knowledge. And she saw war, a catastrophic conflict that ended with both humans and Deathworlders annihilated. "We have a choice," Elena said when the vision subsided. "But we'll need to convince them we're worth saving." As the team prepared to leave the Ark, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Back on Earth, tensions were escalating. If they didn't act quickly, humanity might choose the path of destruction and drag the Deathworlders down with them. Returning to Earth aboard the battered Aurora, Elena Vasquez carried a burden heavier than ever before. The revelations from the Cedar Ark weighed on her mind, each truth more unsettling than the last. Humanity wasn't just facing an alien invasion. It was confronting its own place in a galactic ecosystem it had unknowingly disrupted. Armed with this knowledge, Elena knew she had to act quickly. But convincing world leaders and the Deathworlders wouldn't be easy. The moment they touched down at a remote military base, chaos greeted them. News of their unauthorized mission had leaked, and public opinion was divided. Some hailed Elena as a hero for seeking answers, while others branded her a traitor for abandoning Earth during its darkest hour. Worse still, the Veil's influence had grown stronger in their absence. Director Cole's shadowy organization now openly advocated for preemptive strikes against the Deathworlder fleet, claiming humanity couldn't trust aliens who refused to communicate directly. Elena wasted no time. With Captain Marcus Kane's sacrifice fresh in her mind, she demanded an audience with global leaders, presenting her findings alongside footage from the Cedar Ark. "This isn't about war," she pleaded, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "It's about survival, for both us and the Deathworlders. They're here because we've broken the rules set by the Cedars, the creators of life across the galaxy. If we cooperate, there's hope for coexistence." Her words sparked heated debates among officials. Many remained skeptical, unwilling to accept that humanity might have to relinquish its dreams of interstellar expansion. Others saw merit in her argument, but feared backlash from citizens unwilling to surrender their freedom. Amidst the turmoil, one leader stood out, President Alana Torres of the United Earth Coalition. Though hesitant, she agreed to facilitate negotiations if Elena could prove the Deathworlders would listen. Reaching out to the fleet required creativity. Using fragments of the Cedar language decoded by Dr. Raj Patel, Alina crafted a new message, not a plea for mercy, but an acknowledgement of shared origins. She transmitted it through the artifact recovered in Siberia, hoping its energy signature would resonate with the aliens. Days passed without response, and doubt crept into even Alina's resolve. Then, finally, the fleet reacted. A single ship descended, landing near the base where Alina waited anxiously. From it emerged Kalvar, the towering leader of the Deathworlders. His presence was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, his glowing eyes scanning the humans gathered before him. When he spoke, his deep, guttural voice sent shivers down their spines. "You understand now," he said simply, his words translated by Raj's devices. "Yes," Alina replied, stepping forward. "We know why you're here, and we want to find a way to fix what we've done." Kalvar studied her for a long moment before nodding. "Your kind has caused great harm, yet you seek understanding. This is unexpected." Negotiations began cautiously, with Alina acting as intermediary. The Deathworlders proposed a compromise. Humanity could retain limited access to space under strict ecological guidelines enforced by their fleet. In exchange, they offered advanced technology capable of reversing environmental damage on Earth. It was a fair deal, but not everyone agreed. Factions within humanity rejected the terms outright, viewing them as surrender. Protests erupted worldwide, fueled by misinformation spread by the Veil. Meanwhile, Kalvar warned Alina that patience among his people was thin. "If your leaders cannot decide soon," he said gravely, "we will enforce compliance ourselves." As tensions mounted, Alina realized the hardest part was yet to come. Convincing humanity to embrace peace meant confronting those who preferred war, including the Veil, whose true motives remained shrouded in secrecy. One thing was certain: the path to coexistence wouldn't be easy. But for the first time, there was hope. And hope, Alina knew, was worth fighting for. The fragile truce between humanity and the Deathworlders was a powder keg waiting to explode. While President Alana Torres and other world leaders cautiously embraced the compromise proposed by Kalvar, dissent simmered beneath the surface. The Veil, emboldened by growing public outrage, launched a propaganda campaign painting the aliens as oppressors bent on enslaving humanity. Their message resonated with fear-stricken masses who saw the agreement not as salvation but as surrender. Alina Vasquez found herself at the center of a storm she couldn't control. Once hailed as a visionary, she now faced accusations of betrayal from those who believed she'd sold out humanity for alien approval. Protesters gathered outside military bases, where negotiations took place, chanting slogans like "Earth First" and "No chains in space." Even within her own team, doubts began to creep in. Lieutenant Sarah Choi voiced concerns about trusting the Deathworlders, while Dr. Raj Patel struggled to reconcile his scientific curiosity with the moral implications of accepting their terms. Amidst the chaos, the Veil made its boldest move yet. Using stolen data from the Cedar Arc, they constructed a narrative claiming the Deathworlders had manipulated Alina and her allies into submission. Fake videos surfaced online showing edited footage of Kalvar threatening Earth's destruction if humanity resisted. The videos went viral, sparking riots in major cities and forcing governments to reconsider the treaty. But Alina refused to back down. She knew the truth, and she suspected the Veil wasn't acting alone. Late one night, while reviewing encrypted communications intercepted by loyal soldiers, she uncovered evidence linking the organization to rogue elements within Earth's military. These factions planned to sabotage the negotiations by framing the Deathworlders for atrocities they hadn't committed. Worse still, they were manufacturing weapons designed to target both human populations and the alien fleet, a scorched earth strategy intended to ensure no one survived. "We can't let them win," Alina told President Torres during an emergency meeting. "If we don't expose the Veil now, everything we've worked for will collapse." With time running out, Alina assembled a small team, including Sarah and Raj, to infiltrate the Veil's hidden stronghold. Intelligence pointed to a remote facility buried deep in the Arctic, where the group was stockpiling experimental weapons. Armed with prototype tech salvaged from the Aurora, the team braved sub-zero temperatures and treacherous terrain to reach the base undetected. Inside, they discovered horrors beyond imagination. Rows of drones armed with devastating payloads lined the walls, each programmed to mimic Deathworlder designs. In a secure lab, scientists worked feverishly to weaponize cedar technology, twisting it into tools of mass destruction. Most chilling of all was Director Kolv himself, overseeing operations with cold precision. "You think you're saving humanity?" Elena confronted him as the team disabled security systems. "You're destroying it." Cole smirked, unfazed. "Humanity doesn't need saviors. It needs survivors. Sometimes, sacrifices must be made." Before he could activate a doomsday device capable of annihilating entire star systems, Marcus Kane appeared, alive and battered but determined. He'd been rescued by Deathworlder scouts after the ambush in space and sent back to aid Elena. Together, the team dismantled the weapon and broadcast proof of the Veil's crimes to the world. As news spread, public opinion shifted dramatically. The Veil's influence crumbled, and humanity rallied around the idea of coexistence. But the victory came at a cost. Trust between species remained fragile, and scars ran deep. Still, Elena stood firm, knowing the hardest battles lay ahead, but also believing peace was possible. For the first time in weeks, hope burned brighter than fear. The fall of the Veil marked a turning point for humanity and the Deathworlders. With evidence of their treachery exposed to the world, public opinion shifted dramatically. What had once been fear and resistance toward the alien fleet transformed into cautious optimism. For the first time, people began to see the Deathworlders not as invaders but as enforcers of balance, guardians tasked with protecting the fragile ecosystems of the galaxy. Elena Vasquez stood at the forefront of this new era, her role evolving from reluctant scientist to global ambassador. Alongside Calvar and President Alana Torres, she helped draft the Treaty of Shared Stewardship, a historic agreement outlining humanity's responsibilities in maintaining ecological harmony both on Earth and beyond. Under its terms, Earth would undergo decades of environmental restoration, guided by advanced Deathworlder technology. In return, humanity earned limited access to space, monitored closely by the fleet to ensure compliance with galactic laws. But the road to recovery wasn't easy. Cities ravaged by riots and misinformation campaigns required rebuilding, not just physically, but socially. Communities fractured by distrust and fear slowly came together, united by a shared vision of renewal. Schools introduced curriculums about the Cedar legacy, teaching children that humanity was part of something far greater than itself. Artists painted murals depicting cooperation between species, while musicians composed symphonies inspired by the glowing symbols etched into ancient artifacts. Captain Marcus Kane became a symbol of sacrifice and resilience. Though presumed dead after his heroic actions aboard the Aurora, his unexpected return brought hope to millions. He worked alongside Elena, serving as a bridge between humans and Deathworlders, ensuring mutual understanding replaced lingering animosity. Together, they traveled across Earth, addressing crowds and answering questions about what lay ahead. Their partnership became a testament to the power of unity, even between seemingly incompatible worlds. Calvar, too, underwent a transformation. Once seen as an unyielding enforcer, he revealed glimpses of vulnerability during negotiations. Through Elena's translations, he shared stories of his own struggles leading the Deathworlders, of watching civilizations crumble under hubris and greed, leaving him no choice but to intervene. "We are not your enemies," he told humanity in a final address broadcast worldwide. "We are your siblings, bound by shared origins and shared mistakes. Let us move forward together." As years passed, Earth began to heal. Oceans teemed with life, once thought lost forever. Forests reclaimed barren lands, and skies cleared of pollution. Humanity learned to tread lightly, cherishing the planet it had nearly destroyed. Meanwhile, cautious exploration resumed, with joint missions led by human and Deathworlder crews venturing into the stars. These expeditions uncovered remnants of other Cedar creations, sparking renewed interest in unraveling the mysteries of the galaxy. Alina often found herself reflecting on how far they'd come. Late one evening, standing on a hill overlooking a thriving city bathed in moonlight, she felt Marcus approach from behind. "You did it," he said softly. "You gave them a future." She shook her head, smiling faintly. "We all did. This isn't my victory. It's ours." In the distance, one of the jagged Deathworlder ships descended silently, its red veins pulsing like a heartbeat. It no longer inspired fear. Instead, it reminded Alina of the delicate balance holding the galaxy together, and the responsibility they now shared to protect it. Above them, the stars twinkled brightly, each one a promise of what could be achieved when two peoples chose coexistence over conflict. The arrival of the Deathworlder fleet had changed everything. But perhaps, Alina thought, it had changed them for the better.